Hello, welcome back again to Mansfield Ceramics Gallery in Darlinghurst, which is in the east of Sydney, and it's very much somebody was asking me, they emailed me from America asking where the gallery was, and so we're an inner suburb of Sydney. It's kind of a very trendy area of Sydney. It's between King's Cross with the big Coca-Cola sign and also Oxford Street up there, the other end. And we're delighted this afternoon to be able to introduce you to John Tuckwell, who's had an extraordinary exhibition here at the gallery. And we're going to have looking at some of his work later on. But first of all, I just wanted to talk to John, first of all about his journey into ceramics and then about the work itself. So John, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So we were talking a moment ago about how you came into ceramics fairly late in your life.
Yes. So I think I didn't touch a bit of clay till I was past 40. I don't know how much that dates me. Mm-hmm. I came into it, someone said, can you make something for, for my shop? And I went, yes. Oh, yes, beauty. What'll I do? Okay, good, I'll do that. Yeah. And then, you know how clay works, slowly but surely seduced, and I made a lot of work for the souvenir trade, I guess.
Yes.
It was a living, it was lovely. I was a production sculptor in a way.
Yes.
So I've come in late. I've come in through the side door a bit, rather than a traditional leave school, go to art school, art college.
Yes.
So I missed some of the rules.
Yes.
Which I've been working very hard to catch up on, so I understand them. Not necessarily live by them.
Yes.
I've worked for 10 years or more, I guess, and then studied at ANU, and then I've been working just really in my workshop, most of the time door shut, no radio, no nothing, working in a single direction, probably since then.
Right.
So this stuff here is the end of a long line, and I'm not sure where the other end of the line is either, but it's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. So just going back a few steps, so you didn't touch clay until you were almost 40, but what was your first introduction to clay? Did you go to a night class or?
No, it truly was. There was a woman who was a friend of mine who had a craft shop. She's a painter.
Right.
And she wanted a few more things, to sell. And I'd built a very large clay sculpture. No, I built a mud brick house. It looks like a clay sculpture, doesn't it? I was thinking, well, I'm going to get a job or something like that. And I thought, well, okay, I can do this.
That's brilliant. Yes.
I can do anything sort of attitude.
Yes.
That's not always true.
No, but it works.
Yes.
Excellent. And the work itself it's unique. We were talking a little while ago. There's nothing like it around, and we understand that each piece takes an enormous amount of time. So to put together a piece of your work, how long does that take you?
Well, a largish one. If I did it in one run, which of course it's spread over a week or two, but if I did it in one run, a largish piece is, a couple of days to get it together before it gets anywhere near a kiln.
Right.
And that doesn't probably allow for the design drawings, and a bit of research and that sort of stuff that precedes that. There's these 38 pots here is sort of 4 months' work, I guess.
4 months' work.
Yes.
And conceptually, and again, we spoke about it earlier, and we've noticed it during the exhibition run here, that it lends itself to all sorts of interpretations from people talking about the dreamlike state. Somebody else mentioned Bosch and his paintings, especially with the work at the front. And there's a real beauty in that there's no didactism involved. People come in, they see it, and they spend a lot of time looking at each piece. We actually had a couple of people in from Dubbo who just saw it as pastoral lands, and they actually saw sheep where I had never seen sheep before. But for you, the artist, what is the concept behind the work?
So I think some of this stuff is obviously landscape, and some of it is not obviously landscape, but for me it all is, and it all comes from the same sort of well. So I live on the north coast of Bellingen, 500 kilometres north of Sydney,
Yes.
in a little tiny town, and very beautiful area. And west of us is a very high, for Australia, range of mountains, and there's a place up there just beautiful, which I go to rebuild my soul.
Yes.
Sometimes, like we need to, which
Yes.
is very beautiful, and I've almost mined that place for inspiration for more than 10 years, and I still do. And a lot of it follows down from that. So some work's quite almost descriptive, narrative, and others are sort of a bit further removed. And sometimes I'll start an idea and make a pot, and then there'll be another little bit pops out of that one. And so there's this cascading sort of ideas. But where you say the people from Dubbo came in and saw the pots, truly, where Gulgong, where you're from, there's a whole lot of big square paddocks out there, and there's this stuff pops up, and I see it. I see it a lot. Fly over South Australia in an aeroplane or something, and I don't do that on purpose, but I know that's what happens. So often I'll take the landscape and I'll convert soft things into hard things, and I think any colour can be swapped.
Yes, look, I absolutely. I have to say, there was this lovely, it was a young girl, actually, a student of ceramics, and she saw it as a washing line, just here, with the sky and the clouds, and she was just reading into it. And as I say, I love that interpretation of it. I'm really keen to ask you about the fragility of your work.
Yes.
And so that it does lend something, therefore, of a transient quality to it. It's incredibly fine.
Yes.
We stoke it very gently, because of that. There is that, they're large pots, but they're not robust. I mean, I'm sure they are, but one feels as if one has to be very, very gentle with them.
Look, I think that's right, and sometimes you think of the concept after you've started working on something, or the material tells you what you're making or something, but it's to me that works for landscape. That it's a thing that moves and changes, and not necessarily talking about what us human beings are doing to landscape, but just what happens naturally, and there is a fragility, and I need to be a bit aware of it all. So that sort of fits for me. And it's just, part of it is what I'm sort of driven to do a bit too.
Yes, okay. And inside your work, because people have asked us, that you section off inside, and what's the reason for that?
So, there's two reasons there. Is where you've got very large pieces and using this fine porcelain, once you get to a biggish piece with big unsupported areas, warping and cracking and that sort of thing becomes a problem. So the first time I ever put a divider of any sort into a pot, it was to hold it together. It was playing with an idea of how do I make a bigger pot. But now it's absolutely, you see often enough they're divided into numbers we're pretty familiar with, like 7 for days or 12 for weeks in bigger pots and stuff like that. So they're talking about time and landscape, I think.
Yes, okay.
So there's that little thing.
That little thing, Look, it's so it's reading your pots, and obviously they have a utility. There is such a sculptural element to them, and what has been sort of going around them over this past couple of weeks is there's always something to find, and then as you say, even internally there's these things, and that hasn't escaped us, the numbers, and we've wondered. We've sat in here, we've wondered, well, why this and why that, and we also perhaps guessed that it was to do with there was a structural element to it, but then beyond that, so we're in examining, we've realised, well, you don't need 7 spines in there, so there must be something in there. Look, if people want to buy your work, they can buy from you.
I suppose, not very many people come to visit tiny towns in the middle of nowhere. But I guess, and there's other places.
There's other places. So where else can people find your work?
Well, Sturt Gallery here in Newtown at
Kerry Lowe's.
Kerry Lowe's, yes.
Great.
Thank you. They're the two obvious ones around the place, and apart from that, I've been doing workshops. I did the Warrandyte, Jane
Yes.
Anwar's Warrandyte Wonder
Yes.
this year as the guest artist down there, which was lovely. And that's, by the time I've satisfied that that's all I can make. So,
Yes,
then
I
I do
understand.
an exhibition once every year, I guess.
But
mostly,
look,
so.
I'm just going to say for all of our overseas viewers
Yes.
who'll be watching this video through our website that you and I have talked briefly about your work being at Gulgong next year at our
Yes.
conference.
Yes.
And so they might be lucky enough to see it there. We certainly hope so.
I think that'd be lovely.
That we
Yes, I
can
think so.
organise something.
Yes.
John, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure living with your work. It's been a pleasure spending some time with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. It's wonderful to have been in this gallery.
Thank you, John.